Charles, we're here in your old stomping grounds.
Exactly. That's where I used to stomp, only for a short period of time, actually, just
What
from
do you mean?
June 1980 until October, November 1982. Dylan Reed was down here. Well, I was down.
Do people recognize exactly where we are?
They should. This is the historic intersection of Wall Street and Broad Street, and to our right is the New York Stock Exchange, which used to be, in the old days, this area would be filled with bike messengers and people walking around as messengers and toing and froing. The security actually used to be tougher than it is right now. At least after 9/11, I think it was somewhat tougher. But I believe a lot of people have moved out, humans have been moved off the trading floor.
Because of the pandemic, you mean?
Well, because of technology. Because of technology. And that used to be the J.P. Morgan's worldwide headquarters, famous in part because in the early 1900s, terrorists attempted to blow that building up, and there are still, at least I haven't checked it recently, but there still was evidence of the assault against really the most important bank at the time in the United States.
That's probably why the FBI isn't looking at it. They hate evidence.
The FBNI is looking at it. The Federal Bureau of Not Investigating.
Right.
So the reason we thought it would make sense to come down here is to remind people that last I checked, there is a thing, and it's called the Constitution. And the Constitution ushered in, right there, George Washington was sworn in April 30th, 1789. He was the first U.S. president under the Constitution. Visitors from around America and around the world frequently come and look as we are looking. And it wasn't, however, until 91, I believe, 1791, that is, that's okay, until it wasn't until 1791 when the Bill of Rights was added as an amendment to the Constitution. Well, very important right there is freedom of speech. And we're seeing, particularly from the period, say, March 2020 forward, we are now seeing a continuing assault on every American's right to freedom of speech, under a ruse, I would argue, that you have a right to freedom of speech, but if you want to use this or you want to use that, or that right could be approved. Now, that's maybe okay if you had a series of competing interests that if you didn't
equal power in the market,
right? That if you wanted to use and you signed up to use and you actually made the owners of these platforms extremely rich, you and the people who put your information on them. If there were a series of husky co-competitors, that if you irritated, let's say, one that was right-leaning, you could go on another that was left-leaning, whatever, maybe you would say it's okay to have your freedom of speech abridged. But I would argue, particularly looking at the 2020 period, both the run-up to the election and the aftermath, we now see that there's no objective determination of who gets censored and who doesn't get censored.
Very arbitrary.
Well, no, it's fundamentally the people who are promoting globalism, benefiting from globalism, want to be in China, are very happy with the social credit system, who, frankly, most of whom are uneducated and who have massive conflicts of interest. They're the people who are stamping out anybody who dares say, now hang on, you know, Twitter and these other things did not exist 20 years ago. This is a whole, and certainly they certainly didn't exist as the kind of near monopolies, or if not monopolies, that they are today. The politicians appear to be, with one story that we see looking at the 1988 to the present time frame, is that politicians sold out for chump change. I mean, I would argue that even B-Rock, who with Michelle is now going to celebrate
that nice house.
Nice house. He's got the one in Martha's Vineyard. He's got the one in Chicago. He's got the one in Washington D.C. Rumor is that he's got something in Honolulu, big estate there. I don't know if any of that's true, but the point is, it is proven easy to take somebody out of obscurity, be it AOC, Barack Obama, whatever. Give AOC a Tesla and a fancy apartment and a shopping allowance. And next thing you know, she's the bobblehead, you know, who's standing up uttering inanity after inanity. And shame, frankly, on all of us for putting up with this, because I did not get the memo that the idea has changed in this great country where we spend so much money on healthcare from, if you have a problem or if you are looking to take care of your health, you might want to get a doctor, you might want to have a relationship with that doctor, you might want to have a series of tests, you might want to know your family medical history. And when something concerns your doctor, you have a conversation with the doctor, you get a second opinion, and with your doctor, you make the decision that makes the most sense for you and for your family. I have not seen the memo yet that says that system's totally out of the window. Some troll garden gnome and a cacophonous collection of companies and other intermediaries is going to jam shit into your I mean,
we're starting to get into the realm of what the purpose of this little conversation is about, which is that there are a lot of guests on Crowdsource the Truth now, Charles, who are expressing their frustration with the inability to exercise the First Amendment on some of the most popular platforms that you've been talking about. You know, Donald Trump's lawsuit against Twitter, this revelation by Dr. Shiva that was publicized in the Gateway Pundit, and the conversation I had with Zach Voorhees yesterday. There's a lot of talk about how these private companies are acting not only at the behest of the government, but according to Dr. Shiva and the revelations of this Twitter dashboard of some kind, there's a direct interface by which it's secret and they're basically under the control of the government. So how are they not government agencies, and how are they not subjected to the same limits that the government is?
Right, and so what we're getting to, I think, is that the purpose of this special and others that may follow is to go into territory where if we put this out on a YouTube, on on Twitter, we would be immediately canceled. So we need to have a way to interact with the audience where we exercise our First Amendment freedoms. I've never held myself out as a medical expert, nor will I ever do so. However, I have had to deal with very vexing medical challenges, dealing with some of the biggest medical experts in the respective disciplines where the challenges lived. And I know from that experience that the world's experts fundamentally...
Not always right.
Well, actually, when you get into, as you know better than I, when you get into complex medical problems involving comorbidities and multiple potential challenges, every case is different. You know, every person is unique. And while we have many commonalities, as Americans, for example, we're living in the 50 states and the American territories, we're in theory protected, our rights are protected under the Constitution. It is absolutely not the case that the top expert in the world would know with regard to one specific person. I'm thinking now of Clarissa and the challenges that she immediately faced when she went in for what was a golf ball-sized lump in her throat and was told it was going to be a cosmetic thing. It was nothing serious, actually. She had good doctor. No, really, just said these things happen, and
they just can't always know.
Well, and you go from that to putting her on the table, going holy shit, and then stopping the operation, letting her wake up, and then saying to her and her family, "You've got to have your larynx taken out."
Meaning you're never going to be able to speak again.
Right, and if you don't do it, you're going to die. I mean, that kind of stuff. And then
what would you like to do?
Right. Well, I know, but the point is, and when there ensued a period, without getting too much into the details, where this expert says it's this kind of issue, absolutely, and this treatment makes sense, and the next expert says this, and another expert says that, and whatever. And so, with the medical profession in general, my takeaway. Well, yeah, I mean, that's with one patient. Now, this conflicted octogenarian travel gnome who
and to be clear, you don't blame the doctors for
not
that.
At all.
You just recognize that this is like uncharted stuff. And
right. I'm just saying on that one case of one person, right? The world's experts did not know. Now, that does not mean that all of the world's experts in medical health don't know anything. But what it does mean is that unlikely that one group of Fauci and Birx and you name it, Redfield, whoever, people, I might add, who have had responsibility over this domain of dealing with what happens with coronavirus and screwed it up with AIDS, HIV and AIDS, and screwed it up and didn't have a plan in place, and nonetheless are among the most highly paid people in the universe of bureaucrats in this country.
Right.
Those people have since really the famous first SCARF conference where the SCARF lady gets out with Fauci and they do this mutual self-congratulation thing. You want to go up that way? Or
Sure.
This mutual self-congratulation. Sorry about that. Self-congratulation thing where they buff each other's credentials and congratulate one another for all their success, and nobody says, no, wait a minute. What really happened with HIV and AIDS and the Global Fund? And anyway.
Well, we trust the Global Fund.
Yeah. So we've gone from, if you have a problem that's worse than the flu, for example, most people feel when it comes to flu that they can deal with it. They've had it before and they know when it starts to be worse than the flu, you say to yourself, well, maybe I ought to go see my doctor if I can. And so instead of operating that way, we had these people tell us, put up pictures of China where the Chinese government was locking people into apartment buildings.
Welding them in.
Yeah, and horror scenes in Italy and elsewhere, and this alarmist projections that turned out to be
I think we're getting into the territory of stuff that we want to talk about on our freedom of speech platform.
Okay. Well, isn't that what we're on now?
No.
Oh.
What we're doing here, Charles, is we're announcing to everybody that today's episode is going to take place on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Not
my bad.
Because Charles wants to start charging money to the audience, but because what's the storm?
I don't know.
Is there a storm expected? Are you chasing a storm to here? Okay. The point is...
He's waiting for the bar to open.
The point is, Charles, because so many of the generous viewer sponsors of Crowdsource the Truth have sponsored the show and allowed us to create a condition where this server that I control exists and allows us to post this content, we now are going to use that to share your opinions and insights because it's a hostile environment on YouTube where you just can't do it there.
Right, on some topics.
On some topics, right. We're not converting Sunday with Charles to a sponsor-only show. We're not converting Charles Ortel is Closing In to a sponsor-only show. But when you, Charles, feel that you have a topic you'd like to discuss that you think puts the platform on YouTube or any of these public big tech social platforms at risk, we now have the option, and I am so pleased to be able to offer to you a platform upon which you can share your opinion without having to worry about it getting canceled. So today's show is going to begin at, just in about 15 minutes from now. And people who are already sponsors can enjoy it on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And people who'd like to join us and continue to allow shows like this to happen can become sponsors. So we will continue the conversation on there, Charles.
Sounds like a good plan, Jason, and I applaud your Kaizen improvements.
Thank you very much, and thanks so much to the generous viewer sponsors who have made it possible. We'll see you guys there in just a little bit. Thanks for watching.